we all have dreams, big and small, that create a life in our minds different than our reality. All the while, we watch others seemingly make it happen. I'm Rachel Denson, a farm girl turned mortgage guru, moonlighting as your self-help cheerleader. Together, we'll pull back the curtain with intentional conversations and discover how you get there. Hello, Kyle. Welcome to How You Get There.
Hey, Rachel. I am so honored to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Friends, have you ever had somebody that you've met and that you can honestly say has changed the trajectory of your life? There are a few people outside of family and friends that come to mind, and I am so excited to introduce you to Kyle Draper, keynote speaker, author, coach. He's one of them for me. He's not the sports Kyle Draper. I know that was the first thing I did when he came to talk to our company last year. I did the quick Google and got really confused, but I promise you, this one is better.
We do not look the same.
And I am so excited to dig into all the things with him, his mission statement, core values, his value adds. They're truly applicable to everybody. And not only am I going to ask Kyle how he got there, but I've got three main reasons I brought him on today, and really just want to give you guys a quick high-level idea of where we're going, because a lot of you who listen seem to know me personally, and when you don't know my guest, I think you think, what am I even in for? So Kyle is going to talk to us. I've got lots of questions about some mechanics of the business he's built. We're going to get into this term called a VA, which when I first met Kyle, the only thing I thought of once again was veteran affairs. It's not that. Spoiler alert. And then finally, we're going to go into Kyle taking us a little bit to a high-level marketing church. That's his package as a keynote speaker. So I don't want to spoil what you would be getting if you asked him to come to speak to your company, but I will hope he'll give us a little bit of that, because that was really what hooked me into video and is truly what a lot of people ask me. Oh, how do you do what you do online with video? Especially when I was just doing it with mortgage. And I would always say, well, there's this guy, Coach Kyle Draper. You need to look him up.
So thankful for you.
Oh, well, I'm thankful for you, and I'm so glad we got connected when we did. It's funny, before we get into how you got there, I have never told you this, but when we were told we were getting somebody to come speak to our group, I immediately thought, oh my gosh, another sales guy just trying to tell us to count numbers and count our calls and do all these things that I know I'm already doing and thinking about. And I was really kind of like ready for some cringe, and you just blew me away. It was the total opposite.
Yeah, I'm not the cringe. I'm not the cringy sales guy, that's for sure.
No, not at all. But Kyle, I know a little bit about how you got to where you're at, but I would love if you would just tell me the story.
It's a cool story. I don't think a lot of people are proud of their stories necessarily, but for me, so my background, I started as a youth pastor when I was 20 years old, and at the time was a fifth generation pastor, thought that that's what I would do my entire life. When you go into church ministry, you don't really expect to go out of it.
Right.
And long story short, 8 years in, I just started feeling weird. And when I would meet with people, as soon as they found out I was a pastor, they were like, "Ooh, I'm not going to cuss in front of this guy. I'm not going to, tell him how drunk I was last night." And so I just got real disgruntled, because like I wanted to love people, but it's hard to love people that are being fake to you.
Right.
And so through 2 years of prayer, finally I felt like God said, "Kyle, I want to use you as a businessman with the heart of a pastor."
Mm-hmm.
And so I left church ministry. This is about 10 years ago now, and started a roofing company with my dad and my brother. No clue what I was doing. I'd never really had a real job outside of being a pastor. And so I am just, Rachel, like I'm just failing my way through everything.
How did you land on roofing?
Well, the short story is, so my dad owned a custom home business back in the 80s. So
Okay.
He had a background in it. but I jumped on with a roofing company right after I stopped pastoring,
Mhm.
and a different company. And that company kind of screwed my brother and I out of like $130,000.
Ouch.
And so we were like, we can either join another company or just pick this moment to start our own. And we chose to start our own.
Sure.
Wasn't a choice that I wanted to make, but we were kind of thrust into it. And
Sure.
so I was just like learning how to do sales, learning how to do marketing. Back then, Facebook Live had just become a thing. And so I'm the roofer that's like going live.
What year are we?
Oh gosh, this is 2014, I think.
Okay.
And so I'm just doing stuff, just throwing noodles on the wall, figuring out what's going to stick. And so through all of that, I started
Mhm.
getting good at social media for just my own benefit. And I started meeting a ton of realtors through roofing, right? Every
Okay.
networking you go to, there's 100 realtors there out of the 130 people, you know? And so for everybody else, it's like, ugh, all these realtors. And I was like, yes, all these realtors, they need roofers. And so
Mhm.
we're creating these connections. And about 3 years into that, I just realized like roofing wasn't going to be my forever.
Mhm.
And I'd met a buddy and we started a company building websites for real estate agents. And through that, I realized their lack for social media.
Mhm. And you're still sticking with the Facebook Live through all this. Do it on the
Yes,
roof.
because what's funny, Rachel, is back then I had people that were like, "Bro, why aren't you teaching Instagram? Why aren't you teaching YouTube? Why aren't?" And I just kept saying like, "I want to be the expert of Facebook.
Mhm.
I want to truly be the expert of something. I don't just want to be the jack of everything."
Right.
And so I stayed committed and I taught tons of Facebook classes and so then finally I taught hundreds.
So you were doing some social media, just weren't leaning into Instagram and YouTube. Just were trying to be the
Yeah,
Facebook guy.
Facebook was my jam. That
Mhm.
was my thing because think about how many of your listeners they suck at all social media, yet they have all of them.
Right.
Like why would you keep sucking at all of them when you could
When
get
you say, can
intentional?
you define suck for some people that I don't even think about?
You just be bad. Why would you want to be bad
But like,
at all of
this
them?
is for people that are not like being bad as personal users or being bad as business people or
Oh, I
both.
think it's all of the above.
All of it.
You know, because I think some people think they're doing a good job and they're doing a horrible job because all they do is put selfish content out there that only
Hmm.
serves themselves. And they're like, yeah, I post on social media every day and it's awful. And so for me, I'm very simple minded. And so I knew like I can't get good at all these things at once. And so
Right.
Facebook was my jam and it still is my jam. It's still the best platform to leverage for business, despite what anybody says. And so through all of that, I just woke up one day and was like, man, I think I could get paid to do this stuff. And so I left my website company a couple years in, started coaching and teaching realtors full time on their social media.
Hmm.
And then COVID hit and I started a company because of COVID. And then several other companies have sprouted up just because of this journey. And so I'm just still trying to figure out all this stuff. You know, I just know like if I'm doing everything with the right motive, like I'm going to ultimately win.
Right.
And that's been my commitment through all the things that I'm doing. And so I think now I have like 5 companies that I try to run. And I say try because I think half the days I fail, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I've never had more fun getting to do what I do right now.
And you impact a lot of people, and you are right about Facebook. You and I watch you on, I mean, I have you on Facebook. You're leveraging that, you're serving people that way. And I mean, I see it in my own sphere of I'm of the generation, I think, where for a while we didn't think Facebook was cool.
Oh,
And so
100%.
there were for a few years there where I was like, Psh, that Facebook thing. And as I've grown my business, this podcast, like Facebook is where it is at. That is
Yeah.
where I'm getting the all of the feedback. One of the things I think I love the similarities in our story, and one of the cool things about hearing somebody give a keynote address is, you know, you learn a lot. You're just listening. You can I feel like I absorb so much. Kind of the downside is for somebody like me that's a talker, like, you know, it's not really a conversation kind of place, but there are so many similarities in our stories that you probably don't even know of. You know, I thought I was going to be in agriculture for forever and kind of
Really?
got thrusted, yes, and then got really like life just totally pushed me out of that and got into mortgage because I really was just like, nothing could be worse than just not being happy in a
Yeah.
cubicle,
Yeah.
and clocking in and clocking out, and what do I have to lose,
Yep.
kind of thing. But then also, what I think is it's such beautiful timing, is when I came to listen to you last February, my dog, my chocolate lab, had 8 chocolate lab puppies.
Oh
And
my
I had
gosh.
started going Facebook Live with these dogs. And so everybody kind of gave me, like, some people were giving me crap about it. But for every person that kind
Haters.
of, and it really, I would say it was not, nobody really in particular mattered to me, but my husband, Chad, not in a bad way, but was like, why are you doing this? And I said, because do you know how many people, like, people are coming up to me out of nowhere and are saying, I got to know, did Red find a home? They
Mm,
know our dogs. They care about these dogs with us. And
so good.
and when they care about these, like, they love seeing these dogs. They're seeing me. They are watching me care about these dogs. I'm now somebody they like, know, and trust. And
Right.
so, like,
Yep.
you were putting all these pieces together, and I'm sitting there just really like, it is totally hitting home with me, because I'm thinking, that's me. I'm on my roof. I'm with my dogs, doing this. That seems silly, but it's showing me that video works. And if that's the only lesson that it was that for me. If it didn't do anything else other than, and then it gave other people joy. But if there was one, it it didn't have to give me business or whatever. It was just a pure social experiment that just verified everything that I was hearing from you, and it hit home so much better because it was already happening in my life. And I mean, that is like the Lord's timing's all over that, but it was cool. And I don't think I ever got to tell you that about, like, the puppies in the Facebook Live, because I was sitting there
I
being
love
like,
it.
this is actually what I did.
Well, and what frustrates me, and I was literally on a podcast 2 hours ago talking about the same thing, that if you run into someone at the grocery store that you haven't seen in a while,
Mhm.
and y'all are like, no, oh my gosh, how are you, and what are you doing now, and what are you, and that conversation turns into, no way, we've been thinking about buying a house and we'd love to talk about it. Like, if that is the story you tell, nobody's shocked by that, because that's normal. Like, we bump into people and it turns into business opportunity.
Right.
And so I don't know why people are so bewildered when you and I say, what you're doing on accident at the grocery store, we do on purpose every day on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
We're just creating opportunities to bump into people that know what we do, but if they don't see us regularly, they won't remember. And we're creating these moments for people to go, oh my gosh, I almost forgot you were a lender. We
Yep.
need to talk. And if it wouldn't have been for you jumping on with your puppies, that moment may have not happened. And so I
Yep.
wish more people just understood, like, we're doing the same thing, but on purpose, and it's powerful and it works.
Yes. Yes. All that. And you're already doing it. You're living.
100%.
There are some people that are in business, and this is where I know you have specialized in realtors and lenders, but as I look around me, it's so applicable to anybody in small business, any entrepreneur. because I'm seeing people that this is not a bad thing, but they're still living like on a 24-hour Snapchat story that's expiring, that they've got the same 20 people that they added like the 3 years that Snapchat was hot. And I'm really speaking to my millennial audience here. And I hope that somebody hears me that needs to hear this. And it's like, all I'm doing is just not making it go away. I'm doing the same thing we did in college. I'm doing the same thing I did during COVID, but now I'm just trying to make it not, I'm just doing it more intentionally. Like you said, I'm just being more thoughtful about it.
And if I can add this before we move on,
You
like,
go for it.
what you and I are doing that like our spouses may not get, other people may not understand, is like every time we show up online, we are creating what I call relational currency with people. And so we may not see it in the moment, right? We can't sit here and say every dog video turned into a loan application. Like that's not real life. But we're creating relational equity with people. So what that means is that tonight I will be sending videos out to my friends that are leaders in mortgage, pitching what I want to come do and speak to their people. And so because I've built up this relational equity, when I send this DM and I send them this PDF document that like walks them through what I want to come in and do, their first response is going to be like, who's this joker that's trying to pitch me something? They're going to say, oh, this is my friend Kyle that I believe has my best intentions at heart. And so if he's asking me to consider this, it's going to be valuable. And so I'm going to make money, but it still required me to ask. And so I think it's important for us to make sure people understand, like, neither one of us are trying to say like social media is a magic bullet. And like, if you just show up there, it just magically changes everything. It still requires us to work. Sometimes it doesn't, but it gives us a much better foot to stand on when I've put years of value out for people. And then now I come in later and ask. And most people aren't willing to do it that way.
Absolutely.
Because they want it yesterday.
Yep. And, I think that's something so many people need to hear. And there are so many things, especially in the mortgage and real estate world, that are numbers driven. And I agree, we measure what matters. I have the way that I count, what I've got going in, what's moving along. I'm not saying I don't do those things, but when you get so tied to a result, you could lose out on, yes, maybe this whole magic of social media. No, I can't always say, okay, this video led to this deal.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I will ever be able to say that. And I know I needed you to say that to me about a podcast. I so badly wanted to start a podcast, and I was asking, how do you do this, Kyle? And that was, you said, I don't. I pay somebody to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, but how do how does it make you money? And you were like, it just gives me credibility. It's a value add on what the ultimate goal is. And it goes into that, did you call it relational currency?
Yep, that's it.
Yep. That you talk about of, no, it may not be something that you can ever exactly measure and be this exact science, but if you're enjoying what you're doing and you love what you do for work and you love talking about, and like you said, it's something that I think everybody believes that any service they provide is helping people. That's what a service is. And I think especially people that are in service driven industry, and there's not an exact exchange of you get this one thing this one time and move on, and it's one transaction. There's a lot of gray in that anyways.
Well, and think about like, so you announced on the podcast that like I've made a huge impact in your life, which is crazy to think about. And you talk about how like you watch my content, but you don't comment all the time. right? Like,
No,
it's not like you're just constantly in my comments,
no, I ain't
always
got
saying
time for that.
things.
I mean,
So
yeah,
we have to understand that so much of the value of what we're doing is in what I call the shadows of social media.
that's so good. Yep.
And those are the people that just watch and love you, but they don't gawk over you. They're not trying to be the weirdo that's like always in your comments, but you always find value in what they say.
Yep.
And so at some point, those people will reveal themselves, and typically it's with their money.
Hmm.
And so we just have to be patient, knowing, okay, I only got one comment, but I got 211 views. So there's 211 people out there that found value in what I said. I've just got to keep nurturing them until they begin to put themselves into the light. And that's where, it really gets fun.
Absolutely. And I mean, to that note too, not that, and I really do mean that, because I know I would not be doing what I'm doing today without the conversation that we had. And
Yeah.
I was already I had been in the world of buying into the power of video just for the basics. But you were such a huge nudge to know, okay, I'm not crazy. This is not silly.
Yeah.
This does work.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to steal your thunder. I want you to kind of say, you're going to say it
Steal
way
it.
better than I. No, it's
Steal it.
okay. No, we're going to get there. But that it is easy to, especially in the line of work that I'm in. And when you're around a lot of people, I think that, and our company, there's a healthy mix, but it's like you're seeing these people of like, okay, well, this person was really successful this way, or this person has been in the business for 20 something years, so I can't compare myself to them, and then this person is doing this. And it's easy to be the anomaly right now. That's the key word, right now, because we're still, I think, on the front of this curve.
100%.
And so to be the anomaly right now of saying, no, I believe in the power of educating that way, this way, and the power of connecting with my audience this way. And I think too, to not be just like, as a lender, just living to beg people to send me business, but to actually just connect with my audience, to actually just educate my consumers, and not feel like my whole livelihood is contingent upon somebody is, and especially, like people in the business saying, oh, call this person, which I'm forever grateful for those people. I think that my videos, help give them value too, but it's like, I can, every day that since I've started video, especially in the seasons that I've been more consistent with it, I can know, okay, I connected with my consumers today. I helped somebody understand what I'm explaining to them one on one. I'm just making this accessible to everybody, because, I'm having these conversations with a client that's telling me, I never understood this. You're the only person that's explained this to me.
Right.
It's like, why would I not replicate that? So anybody, like you said, that's maybe not to that point and ready to ask me directly, has access to that information that I'm so passionate about being an advocate
Right.
for. But it's easy to feel weird about it when you are, like I said, I think that it's still an upward curve, especially in rural markets too.
Sure. Yeah, to me, you have an even greater advantage because there's even less people doing it in rural America
Absolutely.
than like where I am in Dallas Fort Worth. And it feels like everybody in there, like everybody's dog has an Instagram account in Dallas Fort Worth.
Right.
So
that's good for you though.
sure. Oh, well, the beauty of my mindset is like I come from a place of abundance, not scarcity. So
Exactly.
even if everybody was doing it, I'm always going to say there's more than enough. People that love you may not like me, and vice versa. And so I never get hung up in, oh, well, like they already did that video, and so I guess I can't do it because I'm going to do it with a little different flair and flavor
Exactly.
than the other person would. And my people don't know you.
Mm-mm.
So I'm over here concerned, well, like Rachel's better than me, when my people don't know who Rachel is.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't even have the ability to create that comparison. But these are just all the self-limiting beliefs and lies that we feed ourselves to just keep us
Mm-hmm.
from taking action. It's
Oh,
all crap.
absolutely. I mean, and that's where, when I think that is a powerful part, though, of kind of captaining your own ship when it comes to marketing, creating content, is you're not focused on what is the other guy doing, because it's like, I mean, when you talk about mortgage, we're all going by the same rules. We all have the same options,
Yep.
and I think another powerful statement just applies to anything is people that are being taken care of can't be stolen. I mean,
It's good. Yep.
people that you can't steal my client. No, people that are being
Yeah.
taken care of aren't going to go somewhere else. And so you can't act from a place of fear.
And if one of your people were that quick to jump to the other side, then they probably weren't your people anyway.
People. Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I'd rather expose them now than keep thinking they're for me and it gets uglier 2 years from now.
And I just think the more like we're getting into this point, I kind of keep thinking, that's not even the point. Like that's the beautiful thing. That's not even the point. It's a $0 value exchange. And you're not, and like you said, you're putting it out there. Nobody has to pay for it. Nobody has to comment, like
Right.
there's no interaction even required of any sort. And so there's really nothing, to me, there's nothing to lose. There's only to gain.
Absolutely not. And I mean, let's be honest. If somebody right now, because you're still so new into your podcast, if Joe Rogan called you up and was like, "Hey, I want you to do the next episode of your podcast on my platform to all of my people," that would scare the crap out of you. Like, because you're brand new at this, it would scare the crap out of me. Like, there's so much value in getting started without very many people watching.
Yeah.
So that I can go ahead and get all my suckiness out.
Mm-hmm.
So that when I am finally being noticed, I'm already really good. And so I live under this belief that like I will continue to be a faithful steward of my content to serve people.
Mm-hmm.
And that I do believe that one day, like my coming out party will happen and I will splash onto the scene and people will go, "Holy cow, like where did this guy come from?" And the reality was I just never quit making content while nobody cared.
Yep.
And that's going to happen. It's the power of the internet, right? Like I believe that like Tony Robbins, like somebody is going to see me and go, "Where has this dude been?" And they're going to bring me on their stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to become famous. Again, not because I care about that, but because what I do is good. I just need more people to know. And that just comes in time.
Yeah. And I love that attitude. I love that, I think there's so fine line between being humble, but then believing in what you're doing.
Sure.
What you're doing is good, because what you are doing is good. And I think that too many people are afraid to say that and own it.
Yeah.
Because of what you said about, I don't want to come off like I'm trying to be an influencer. But it's like, well, but if I have things that I think are going to influence people for the better, why should I be ashamed that I want to share that with the world? That I think I can make the world better, a better place, give people things that they need, but yes, like to your point about, getting out so much of the bad audio, of the bad video. There have been some opportunities that I've been encouraged to take and ask for the guest and all those things. And I think there's a fine balance of I know I'm not copying out. I'm like, nope, I'm not ready for that yet. Like I know my limits and I want to be, because like you said, it's like, I know I have it in me, but I need to still get there. And I'm not going to just try to go through what do they call it at Disney? The fast pass?
The fast pass?
Yeah. I'm not trying to take the fast pass and
Yeah.
then burn out when I
Right.
get there because I wasn't ready. And I think that's the hard part, especially with starting a business like you have, which is getting us back to a question that I knew I wanted to ask. It's not a quick it's not a quick creation. You know, you have to, but you do have to start somewhere. So you said that
Right.
you started coaching. Did you start coaching one-on-one? Were you asking people to be their coach? Like, I know
Yeah.
because you're a keynote speaker, you're
Yep.
an author, you have a podcast, you have a one-on-one coaching business. You've got a lot of, I'm going to call them revenue streams just in layman's terms. I know that there are
Sure.
ways to
Yeah.
serve people, but that is what they are. So
Yep.
I want to know, where did you start? Because they all end up meshing, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. So I started when I moved into this with one-on-one coaching, because that was the fastest way to the most money. And so that got really good really fast. But when you're one-on-one coaching 40 plus people, like, you are a slave to their time.
Right.
And so I looked up and thought, man, it's great that we're making this money, but like, I couldn't take a day off. I couldn't cut out early on a Friday to go do a long weekend with the family, because I was coaching 5, 6, 7, 8 people a day,
And you're one person.
and I'm one person. And so
And they're paying to be with you. And so that's not even something you can
100%.
outsource. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. You can't be like, oh, hey, sorry, but you're going to work with Sarah, and she's Kyle's friend. So she's pretty great. That's not cool with people. And so that's where I started.
And you were just asking the people in your direct sphere that were already telling you, hey, you're
Yeah.
great at this. You should teach other people how to do it. And you're just asking for the business.
I was in people's DMs, and I learned my
Where you're like,
parents
hey,
were.
you suck. Your social media
Yeah.
sucks.
I did say that to some people that I felt I could, that trusted me. But for a lot of people, it was just very casual, like, hey, Rachel, you may not need this, but just so you know, like, I've started doing one-on-one social media coaching to really help people elevate their presence online.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to know anybody that talks in that language, it'd be super cool to connect us.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them go, well, shoot, I need that. Oh, great. I didn't, I'm happy to talk about it. I just didn't want, to make it weird.
Now, Kyle, did you have a curriculum, or was it more like you knew kind of the big principles of what you were seeing was working, and then you kind of fleshed out exactly from there? Because I think there's such a fine balance, and you need to have a somewhat of a plan. But if you wait until you have your whole shooting match together,
Yeah,
sometimes it's too late. You've missed the.
I had no plan starting out.
So you just started asking and knew you could just give value just off of your brain.
And the way I faked it, I was always telling people, you're not all the same. Like I could have 10 different clients, and all 10 of you are struggling in a different area. So to just dump one curriculum on 10 different people, that was my excuse for why I didn't have one.
But
really,
it's true.
It just meant I didn't have one. To an
extent.
And so I just really was listening very intently to each person's, struggles, and then identifying from there.
Very time consuming.
It is very time consuming, but early on, like, there's no other, like, the fastest way for me to learn is to spend the most time in the problems.
Absolutely.
Now I have curriculum that I use. Now I also don't do any, I think I coach one person one-on-one. I don't know that I coach anybody one-on-one at this point, because it's not scalable. So like right now I'm running a boot camp that has 128 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do live stuff, but none of those people get like substantial time with me one-on-one, because I just don't have that bandwidth to give. But that's where I started, and it made sense to start there. And then I began to morph into other stuff from there.
I know with what I have envisioned about how I could scale, like how you get there, just ideas in my brain about what I want this passion project to turn into. I was telling you offline, I look to you. I'm like looking about like, okay, this is
That's
Kyle's
scary.
revenue streams. It's true. It's true. But did you have somebody like that you were looking at? You're like, okay, maybe I do need to transition to one-on-one calls to these. Like, I love that you do these boot camps. You do 30 day, 90 day.
Yep.
it's a one-time payment, you get this much and then you can recommit, do another one. It's not a subscription based. Were you being mentored by somebody that you were picking their brain on how does this stuff work in this
All the
coaching
time.
world?
Yes. If there's one thing that I do well, it's I love asking questions. And I've become humble enough as I've gotten older and failed more to just know that like asking questions costs you nothing, and implementing the answers to those questions costs you your ego.
Mhm.
And so if you can scale back your ego and just go, man, I'll ask I'll ask 10 dumb questions if it gets me to one good one.
Right.
And so I just love asking questions of people.
Mm-hmm.
I've had like independent coaches throughout my life, but like there's probably 6 or 7 different people that I'd say like they've served as some source of mentor
Mm-hmm.
just throughout all this stuff. And so it was watching other people. Back then I had one of my former coaches, he had 50 one-on-one clients that were paying him $1,000 a month. So like that's a ton of money, but it was miserable. Like watching him, like now he loved it and that's great. But that's all he did 10 hours a day. And I was like, I can't do it. I need more flexibility than that.
Right.
So it's to each their own. But the problem that most people have, Rachel, is like until they have the perfect strategy, they do nothing. And so
It's hard.
It's hard.
That is one of the things I struggle the most with. I love that you said that because it's
Are you a
very
perfectionist?
yes.
Yeah. So I'm not.
And I love a plan. So,
Yeah, I hate plans. So, I've had to become a little bit more disciplined, and people like you have to become a little bit more willing to just take action.
Yep.
Because we can't learn if we're not in it. We
Yep.
can learn book knowledge about stuff, but until you're in it,
Oh yeah.
you there's only so much you can learn, right? Like you got to get your hands dirty in a loan.
Yep.
To like get good at loans. You can't just go read mortgage books.
Yeah.
Right? You got to get in there
yeah.
and go for it. And so that's some of my favorite advice to give to people is just like just go. Ready, fire, aim. Like that is my motto. Is I just fire in stuff. And when I realize like, ooh, that was a good one, then let's come over here more often. And ooh, that was a bad one. Let's see if we can avoid that the next time.
Well, and I think too, I know I've put a lot of pressure on myself and I didn't realize at the time, but looking back, like trying to get something right the first time, and then seeking almost advice to the point of being paralyzed of information. Because when you start going down the rabbit hole of social media marketing, the power of video, advice from this person, how to use trending audio. I mean, and that was me last year. I was like just almost paralyzed by information of, okay, this person says I need to do this, and this person says I need to do this. And that's where I think that your message is so powerful because yours is a lot more simple. It's like, no, just show up. You look like you look on video in person.
That's right.
Like you have said many times, and like I repeated, but I only repeated because I hear you in my mind of every time that I have this great conversation on the phone, I'm like, oh, was good. I'm like, that was really explained well. It was received well. It was like I knew I did it in layman's terms, like I'm trying to take this mortgage stuff and like really make it make sense. And I thought, oh, I need to just say that again on video because that's just all you have to do. And so last year, I know I kind of went down this path of trying to make it too hard. I paid money to learn all this stuff about analyze this metric, do this, look at this, like all these things, try to post so many times a day, all this stuff. And it's like, it's not that it's wrong, but it's that if you're going to get so bogged down in trying to do it exactly the way you're supposed to, that you just don't do anything, like that's worse.
It's bad.
It is.
It's a bad spot.
It really had me spiraling, but in a good point, it had me spiraling almost to how you get there, because I thought, what do I really want? Like, I'm being told this is how you're successful in mortgage online. This is how you're successful in mortgage in general. Like, this is, and kind of the same stuff about, I had to sit there and think, do I want so much mortgage business that I can't breathe when I like to that I can't take a deep breath at the end of the day because I just don't even know what to, because it's kind of the same thing of, I'm in a season where I have a loan assistant, and I have a operations team I can count on, but I firmly believe I sell a service that's a white glove service with Rachel. It's not, oh, I'm going to talk to you once and then just let you get through the process. And so when you sell us, and and that's a core value that I don't plan on letting go of. I am very passionate about my client's going to work with me throughout the whole thing. I'm going to have help. It's going to continue to look different, but specifically in this season, that means I'm heavily involved. So it's harder. It can only scale so much, and I definitely have room. I'm in a great spot with it, but I thought that's not even my dream. I love the way my business is running. I'm thrilled by the people I get to help. I'm able to have thoughtful conversations with all my clients. Like, I've got room for more, for the record, people. But like, I what I want is not to grow so much that I need 5 assistants. No, that's not really what I want. What I really want is to be able to be a whole brand and let people that call me even know a little bit more about me before they even call, and already have decided this is who I'm going to call because they like, know, and trust me. And that's what hit,
It's good.
home with me. It was good that think I almost had a burnout with that part, to be like, nope, I'm going to do my passion project for a little bit. I'm going to take a break of trying to, like you said, hit it big, hit it right. I'm done playing the numbers game of trying to go viral, whatever. I'm going to just do my mortgage videos that reach 400 people, that are more than people I can talk to in a week.
That's right.
And then also be able to have time for something that I love, which is having intentional conversations like this, that I really know a lot of people need to hear. Because I wouldn't have heard you if I hadn't have been in the room, and not everybody can always be in the room.
That's right. So good. I'm proud of you. You're crushing it.
Thanks. Thanks. Now, there is some secret sauce here that we haven't gotten to about, how do you have all these things? You said you've got 5 businesses. I picked your brain about this, about how are you posting 2 videos a day? How are you doing that and being on 2 podcasts a day and doing all this stuff? And the answer is simple, but it is something I know that in my grassroots area, I don't think hardly anybody has heard about. It's another one of those things where maybe big in Dallas, Fort Worth, but in my neck of the woods, like I said, I didn't even know what you were talking about when you first mentioned it to me.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to tell us all about virtual assistants, the power of virtual assistants. Take it away.
So Rachel, it's unbelievable. Like, there are men and women on the other side of the globe that are MBAs, that were pre-med, pre-law, and then realize, like, you know what? I'm actually passionate about graphic design, and I could make more money being a graphic designer for an American company than I could being a doctor in the Philippines. And so these are unbelievably talented men and women that just happen to live in a part of the world that doesn't require the amount of money that we require to live. And so, just so people understand, like, there's virtual assistants, VAs, that we have that we start at $3 an hour. And on the surface, you go, oh my gosh, are you running a sweatshop? But when you understand culture and that their minimum wage is under $1, well, wow, $3 takes on a whole different meaning now, when I understand that that's triple, if not more, than what minimum wage is.
I had no idea that those were the numbers.
Most people don't.
And can we stop and go back to a little bit about, you tell me, how did you find virtual assistants, and how do you use them? So because I think that there's still some people that are like, virtual assistant, like I don't have meetings that I need scheduled. So,
Right. Yeah. So our first hire was in content compounding. A little over 3 years ago now. I actually had lunch today with my friend that said, you should use virtual assistants. And I'd never thought of a virtual assistant until he said that. And it scared the crap out of me. But our first hire was a graphic designer. And so we hired her. There was a member of my team that really was the reason this worked well.
Mm-hmm.
She was super intentional about like learning the Filipino culture and understanding like when their holidays are so that we can honor their culture and not just make them be the way we are in America. And so we hired her. Then we hired kind of like a junior designer that operated kind of underneath her, but alongside her.
And they were making the content videos for social media. So they were
doing
big
video
files.
editing and graphic design. And I think they both started at like $5 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so then as we grew, then we hired a third VA, and she was a little bit more on like the admin side and organizational side of the business. And then it was another, and then it was another. And then we hired Jerson, who was all admin, all spreadsheets, like all just the junk work that you cuss every day because you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I inputting this data into this spreadsheet? Why am I the one filtering through all the emails that are spam emails to go find the one that matters? Hello, there's people that'll do this for hardly any money that are better at this than you and like it.
And are making an amazing living
100%.
in their country.
And the other side piece to this is when you understand the Filipino culture, they all live under the same roof. So kids, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, like if they can, they all live together. So people our age, like they're the breadwinners for their children, their parents, their grandparents. And so they also need to be physically available because in the Philippines, you could commute an hour one way just to go to the city to have a job. And so not only are you getting paid crap, but you're also losing 2 hours a day just in your commute. Right. So the freedom that we give them to work from home, and so now grandma needs them or somebody. So like it's so much more than just paying them money. Like we're creating just a lifestyle that they could never have otherwise.
You talked a little high level. Can you tell me how to, like, do you have personal virtual assistants for your business, not outside of content compounding? Like, are some of those people the ones that are powering, like getting your YouTube video and getting your YouTube video from a blog or things like that?
Yeah. I mean, so I don't have a singular VA that I would call like my assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like probably 5 or 6 of our VAs kind of all moonlight as my assistant for different reasons.
Okay.
And just depending on the task. And so they can do anything. I mean, my partner and I, we were just talking about hiring a bookkeeper from the Philippines just to make sure that invoices are paid. And like, because again, like, we're not just like, there's not just people that are really smart in America. Right. Like it's easy to create this bubble that's like, we're the smartest, we're the best. And so obviously like people in a country different than ours are obviously dumber than we are. All of our team is way smarter than me. And so, I mean, there's people in the Philippines with accounting degrees that are 10 times cheaper than trying to actually hire an accountant in America that wants to make, 120, 130K a year.
Right.
Because that's the lifestyle that they need. And so it's everything. And now, Rachel, what's happened is as we grew, our very first hire, Hannah, is now our lead designer over our entire design team. And then Aiko, who I think was like our fourth hire, she's basically like my COO of the Philippines. And so she oversees all the operations of our entire team in the Philippines. And then they report to one of my stateside staff, right? There's 4 of us that are based in America, and then like 14 that are in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And so none of it would have been possible had we not just said, you know what, let's try this. Let's see what this is like. And so now, like, it's just I'm so passionate about my friends that have
Mm-hmm.
businesses like yours, that you go, man, I sure would love to have an assistant, but I don't know that I can spend $6,000, because that's about what it would cost to have a good executive assistant these days that's based in the States. But you can have one in the Philippines for $1,800 a month.
Well, and that's not even, you can't, it's hard for somebody to want to stick around just for that much. I mean, somebody
Oh, for
that's,
sure.
excelling in in the task that you're given,
Yeah.
have a lot of more opportunity in the United States. And so they go and find something else
Yep.
that they can make more too. And, it's like
100%.
power to you, but, and they may not need all the flexibilities that you mentioned too.
And our team over there, they want to do this for the rest of their life. And so they're so unbelievably loyal. Now, we're also incredibly loyal to them, so it goes both ways.
Right.
It's a complete game changer. And I'm blown away at how many people in America have never even heard of it.
No. Mm-mm. And I think about so many small businesses that are like, man, yeah, if I had time to like make a post for all these things, or if I had time to, I've got this big idea, and it's like not something that they personally have to execute, but it's just something that they would need to sit down and do, that it seems like their answer can almost always be, oh, there's a virtual assistant for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was texting you earlier, like, whenever you choose to pull the trigger on a VA, whether that's through me or anybody, you're going to be so mad at yourself for not having done it 3 years ago.
I am already a little mad that I didn't talk about asking, not being afraid, or being afraid to ask dumb questions. I think, there is, it's a fine balance, and it comes from a place of trying to be respectful of, I think, somebody that knows time is valuable. Like when you and I first got connected, there were in some ways where I'm like, gosh, I'm bugging this guy to death, and like he's just being nice to me and answering my questions. And I kind of quit asking, because I thought, okay, Rach, like, enough free advice, quit asking stuff.
And I don't even remember you asking me very many.
It's this narrative I've made up in my head, I'm sure.
Of course.
But it's one of those, it would have been such a simple, like, hey, so like roughly what does that start at? Because I think another thing I've gotten really bogged down in is like, okay, I work for this company. I'm an employee over here, but I have these things and these dreams and these investments I want to make over here as an individual, where do I draw the line? Because, and this is the rule follower in me though, of like, but does that really make sense from a tax standpoint to get a W-2, but pay for all this stuff for my own business, and I can't even write it off? Like, why am I mean, I know I sound silly saying out loud, but truly that's where the holdup has been, in this mental battle with myself about where do I invest my dollars, or how much, like, am I silly for wanting to invest my dollars? Like, am I being frivolous with these things? If I would have asked that question to you, like, I'm kicking myself right now, because I'm like, $3. I spent $7 on a coffee, and I don't think twice about it. Now, granted, I'm not a coffee everyday girly, so I at least have some self-control there. But you know what I mean. And so yeah, but that's what I was going to ask you about specifically. I think what you've created is amazing. Hire Culture, the company, that's its name, right, Kyle?
Yeah. Yep.
You do the hard part, the scary part. Your company does the scary part of making, and it's really where, if something doesn't work out, it's not like, hey, I have to fire this person directly. It's like, hey, I'm going to go to Hire Culture and let's figure out why this isn't a good fit, if there's a disconnecting communication, and if ultimately something needs to change, you're the one facilitating that. Am I correct?
100%. Yeah, we handle all of the hard part, right? So the way we kind of feel set apart is like, I really look at what we do as like we're a dating service,
Yes, I would think
right?
that's a good way to
It's
put
like
it.
we are pairing a human being with your prized possession, which is your business that you have bled for, cried over, prayed over. Like we do not take this lightly.
And like you said, account passwords. I mean, it's
You're good. Yeah,
terrifying to
it's a big
think.
deal.
Yeah.
And so like so of course we do all the headhunting to find the right people, but like we put all of our VAs through leadership training so that they're becoming better leaders, not just better doers of tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Because at some point, right, like we want to grow up people that can make decisions on their own on behalf of you.
Yes.
Because you trust them, not just people that go, oh, well, I didn't do that, Rachel, because you didn't tell me to do it. And it's like, but
yes.
like if you just had common sense, like you would have got. So like we're training them on all of those things ongoing, not until you get one, but it's ongoing, and so we're always checking in. We check in with both you, the American company, and them regularly because there are going to be issues. And so by checking in regularly, we get to catch them early.
You're kind of like a counselor too.
100%.
I'm hearing some feedback over here. I'm hearing some feedback over there.
Yeah.
The mediator. Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
It's just so like, I just love doing it so much. It's such a blessing to everyone involved because you, the American company, get cheap labor, but better labor.
Mm-hmm.
And we're turning people in the Philippines into kings and queens that are getting to rewrite the history of their family because they're making more money than they've ever made in their life. And so just the stories, like we just had one of our VAs the other day that posted a picture of a motorcycle and then a group of kids. And he said, I just want y'all to know that because of content compounding, I was able to buy this motorcycle that we drive up into the mountains every weekend to put on, vacation Bible schools for the kids up there.
Wow.
And it's like, holy cow, like that's not why we hired our very first VA, right? We did it for us. We needed help. But to hear the stories of life change that come out of it, every business in America should be leveraging these incredible people. And so I'm going to keep trying to talk about it to help it happen for as many people as possible.
Well, I love that. I think that, what you've created too, it takes out the scary part. I mean, I know that, and we said, we've got a conversation we're going to have after this episode even, so I can learn a little bit more. And
That's
I know
right.
that.
And we're going to have to do it in the car because I got to take my daughter in a few minutes to gymnastics.
Fair enough.
But we're going to have it.
Okay, Kyle, do you have just a few more minutes just to tell me? I would like to just give you the floor to just give a little bit about what your mission is when it comes to social media. We've talked all around it, but if you could just do kind of the high level of really what your keynote is, because I think too, and I know you love doing it, and I think that, and I'm passionate about it too, probably because that's how we connected, but there are companies that, need to know who you are, and real estate businesses that see that you're welcome, that see that there is power in social media and think that, oh, I've got to go pay all this money to fly, and especially back to rural America, fly to some big place and pay a lot of money to stay and hear all this stuff. And it's like, no, there's a better solution. And I know, like I said, I've had many times out of my mouth when people ask, how are you doing it? What advice would you say? I'm like, Coach Kyle Draper, just follow him. He says it better than I do.
You're the best.
Well, it's the truth.
First of all, I'll come to rural America when anybody wants me. So
I know.
So I love it. So rural people, bring your boy KD to your town, and let's make some cool things happen. But Rachel, for me, like what I hope people get out of this is we've misleveraged what social media is. We've been convinced that social media is a business tool, therefore we take business strategy to it. And so we basically become walking billboards of ourselves, and then wonder why it doesn't work and wonder why our people are annoyed by us, because we basically just vomit our companies on them all the time. And what social media was designed for, guys, it's designed for relationship. It is designed for connection. And so the biggest thing, I don't even think I was teaching this when I taught at your company last year, or maybe I did, but guys, it's social proof. We know, don't miss this, everybody who's still listening, which may be 0 people after an hour of this thing, but for anybody that's left.
I hate when people say that. Somebody else has said that. I'm like, I'm going to believe people love it. They're sticking around to the end. Come on, Kyle. Think positively.
I'm like a 20-minute episode guy. So, this is
I'm a 90-minute girly.
Oh my gosh. So you're a junior Joe Rogan. So
I'm trying to be better.
It's all about, in my opinion, adopting the phrase lead preservation over lead generation. Because lead generation says, I always need new people to grow. When what I believe is we already know enough people, then we're getting business. And so if we would look at social media as a way to preserve the relationships we already have, your business can double, because there's a ton of people that trust you that still aren't giving you their business. And so if we can just cut through that noise and show up a little bit more often, we're going to start winning. Because now the problem is you're being talked about, and I'm not talking about you because you're great at it, but there's men and women that are listening to this that, like, people are saying, oh, you don't know Joe? You need to know Joe, man. He's incredible. But I go look Joe up on the internet, and good night, how arrogant are you? Every post is about you. Every post is about your business. Every post is about begging people to give you their money. And so the worst referral is the one that we never knew we had, because what was said about us didn't match up with what we saw. And this is why I get so excited about this stuff, because we are missing opportunity because we're creating the wrong content for the wrong reason. And so if we would get more focused on, like, what value can I bring to the table? Yes, you've still got to put in the work. I've still got to do a good job of reaching out to people and asking questions and asking for business. But we've got to put content out there that puts us in the driver's seat as the expert. And that doesn't come in, look at my last closing, check out this tractor I just sold. Like, we've got to come from a place of value, and we become the expert based on what we talk about. And so we've got to lead with education. And I could go on for hours and hours and hours, but that's the bread and butter.
Yep.
Of what people need to reconsider, to rethink
everything
about social media.
Like that plug there?
I liked it. Yep. That was my first book, guys. Rethink Everything.
Yep. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for your time.
It's an honor.
I think that's a great note to end on.
Thanks for having me.
Coach Kyle Draper online, kyledraper.com.
That's it.
Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Really getting into all of the things, social media, entrepreneurship, and a little bit different format than what we're used to. But I had so many questions for Kyle. We just didn't have time for anything else.
That's right. So fun.
Thank you for joining me this week. I hope this episode met you where you were at and it's given you your own clarity on steps forward for how you get there. Wherever and whatever that is, it is important and your dreams matter. I would love to hear what you think of this episode and how you get there. You can connect with me personally via email at howyougettere@gmail.com, or you can find me at Rach Ross Denson on Instagram, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you love How You Get There, I have a favor to ask. Will you share this episode with a friend and take a few seconds to follow, rate, and review How You Get There wherever you listen to your podcast? Please know you are playing a part in making my dream come to life, and for that, I am so grateful. Don't forget, if where you want to go in the future involves a home loan, I would love to help you. Find me on Instagram at @RachelDenson_MLO to learn all about mortgages from my videos, or use the link in the bio to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me. I hope to see you back here next week, where we'll keep talking all about how you get there.